It's
5:45, it's our time for this work session to begin. I'll call that to order. Our regular scheduled council meeting will begin at 6:30 following this work session. So we have most of our department heads here, so I'll start with our attorney and make our way around and go through the council and answer questions and have a good dialogue. Grace, you got anything for us?
No, sir.
Chief?
No, sir.
Allison?
No, sir.
Kelly?
Yes, sir, I do. Our audit's been completed for the fiscal year ending 9/30/2023. The council all has a copy in front of them of it. And James, can you pull it up on our website? There's a copy posted to the website. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and look at a few highlights from the audit. While he's pulling up the audit, the council also has a management letter. And this is a letter prepared, let's see, that's the financials. If you could go to the audit on the website, let's see.
Can you hear you? We can't hear you.
Which
Go
one
to-
do you need, Grace?
If you go to the audit on the website,
Okay.
on page 3. Thank you, James. But the council has a management letter in front of you, and this is prepared by the auditors, and it discusses findings and recommendations for improvements in internal controls that were identified during the audit. It's items that, the recommendations, findings that may not be reported in the audit. But the independent auditor letter on the front of the audit and this management letter has no findings. So that means we've received a clear audit. It's called an unmodified opinion. It's the best opinion you can get. They had no recommended internal control changes. They had nothing that we needed to change. So, let's see.
Kelly, could you speak a little louder?
Yes, I can. All right, there we are. If you go to page 3, James. After the
I'll see you. There you go.
Okay, that is our independent auditor report that says it was a no change audit. And the rest of the audit is, I know it's a rather thick book, it is 75 pages chock through of all kind of information. I'm not going to spend too much time going through it, but I do want to hit some major highlights. If you'll flip over to the MD&A on page 6, this is just kind of a brief summary. This is, if you didn't want to pour through all 75 pages, this is just a good summary and hit some highlights, and it just provides, major changes throughout the year. And if you look under that highlights section that James has got pulled up, I just wanted to mention a few items. In that second bullet point, it shares that the general fund reported a fund balance of $15.59 million, an increase of $328,487. And what that number is $328,000. That was our revenues over expenses minus the transfers and the debt. So that was our bottom line after we transferred to the capital project fund. So that's what we had left over at the end of the year that goes into our fund balance. The proprietary funds had an increase of $1.3 million. That's shown on the third bullet point. And I thought that fourth bullet point was very interesting. The total cost of all city programs citywide was $29,822. That's a lot of checks and AP, but that's the spending across all the board. So that's a huge budget for sure. But I just wanted to point that out to you. But the MD&A runs for about 7 pages, and then if you flip to page 14, James, if you'll flip over there, this starts the actual financial statements. And what's difficult, one of the difficulties about government financial statements is it'll look like there's multiple reports showing the same thing, but one's run on the government side wide, one's run on the fund balance. They have different rules. The government wide, you have different accounting rules from the fund balance, so it can get kind of confusing. But the first financials you'll always see in the audit are government wide. And what this one is you can see at the top, this is everything for the whole city. It lists the government activities, the business activities in the second column, and then it even has the water board, which is a separate entity, but because it's interconnected, it has to be listed. So these first few pages of financials show government-wide. It has everything together. If you'll flip to page 15, James, and it just shows the net position. This shows the net position of the entire city. The government has a net position of $57 million. The business type activities, which are your utilities, have an $18 million net equity. and the water is showing 13 million. And then if you flip to the next page, I don't know, oh good, he was able to flip it around. This shows all of the activity, revenues, expense. That's why it's just so crowded in. It's got a lot of numbers. That's where the 29 million is showing up as a total of all the activities. So this just has all the activities for everything on one page on 16. And then if you continue to flip to, keep going, if you flip to page 17, this is where we start with the fund balances. And the council gets a report every month, and it's on the fund balance. So starting on page 17, this is what's going to match back to your financials that you receive every month. This will be, it'll match the financials you get, plus all our end-of-the-year entries we make. So this first page, 17, shows all the government funds. It just shows the total of everything. It shows, this statement is intended to show how the government spent its resources and how much is available to spend. And we budget on the fund balance. So you'll see all these numbers will tie back in this section back to our budget also. So if you flip to page 19,
Which page?
19.
Thank you.
19. This shows all the departments. This shows the expenditures by department and just an overview of all the revenue. Our total general fund revenue was $27 million. It just gives a breakdown, and this will tie back to your monthly financials also. Now, if you flip to page 21, this shows our proprietary funds, and it just details out the gas, sewer, and it says non-major, but that's our garbage. So they're called proprietary because they're supposed to be self-supporting, and so it lists each one of our utilities out separate. And so it'll show their net position. It gives you a detailed breakdown of the net position of each one of those at the bottom. So that is the financials. If you flip to page 25, this is going to be the notes to the financial statements. If you wanted to dig in deeper, there's a lot of extra reading in there. This details our assets, debts, has a lot of pages on our pension. Our pension liability is a big deal. That takes up a good bit of our audit. And it has our accounting policies. So all of that is listed in the notes section. And that runs to page 61. So flip over to page 61 with me, please, because to me this is one of the most useful reports, required reports in the audit. It's a shame it's hid back in the back and hard to see. This is our budget to actual that we have to include in the audited financial statements. So it has, yep, there it is. So this has our budget. This is for the general fund. It has all the departments, what was originally budgeted, what the final budget was in actual. And to me, a very important column is all the way on the right. If you look down through the departments, it shows that all departments ended up under budget. So that's a big thank you to all the departments and employees, because that was a lot of teamwork and diligence to stay under budget on all our expenses. So in this same report, if you follow down the actual column, it shows that same $328,000 where we had revenue over expense. And then the rest of the audit, page 66, we just have to have a separate audit on our grants because we receive so much grant money. That just details the separate audit that they do on grants. And in the very back is actually not part of the audit. It's just required information that the bond company asked us to fill out to report to them. So we go ahead and include it in the audit, so it's in there. It's not required. So it's some interesting parameters and statistics and everything. And James, would you pull up that management representation letter? And then scroll to the second page. Oh, that's it. So this is a management representation letter that I've got to sign before they release the audit. It's got 47 items that I've got to attest to before the audit will be released. So I know it's come up in a couple of meetings, and I just want to make the public aware. I just wanted to highlight something. Let me read number 15. We have to sign off that we have no knowledge or instances of non-compliant or suspected non-compliance with provisions of the law, regulations, contracts, grant agreements, or waste or abuse whose effect should be considered when preparing financial statements. So I wanted to point this out to the public because I'm required, if there's any accusation from the bench or whatever that we're doing anything wrong, I'm required to report that to the auditors. And so they take that, research that, do whatever they have to do with that. And if there's a finding, that's going to show up in the management letter and the audit. So I just wanted to point it out that that's something, that's a requirement that we're required. So if there's ever anything said, I just want the public to know when claims are made, we're required to report those and follow up on them. And so that's all I've got.
Thank you, Bill. Chief?
Just a couple of things. I gave you guys a brochure from our case program that our guys put together with the school. We're using a lot of the audiovisual talent that we have at our school for our videos and different things we're producing with case, which is awesome. We've got some real talented kids. We're going to start, the Friday before prom, we're going to have new driver education. We're going to try to get all of the 11th and 12th graders through new driver education to be put on by our officers Friday before prom, because that prom's a big time for accidents and DUIs and that sort of thing, and we want to try to arm the kids with as much wise information as we can beforehand. So they'll be going over driving, rules of the road, also alcohol and the effects alcohol have on people when they drink and drive, and texting and driving, that sort of thing. We're also continuing the online safety training that's ongoing, and we're continuing the bullying, anti-bullying training. We've got 2 vape cessation classes, and we're going to complete, and then we'll have a 3rd that hasn't started yet. So we're going to get all of those done here soon. And we do have some things planned for the summer. I'd rather wait till it looks like it's going to happen before I publicize some of the things we have planned, but we've got our SROs over the summer, and typically some of them go to patrol to augment patrol, but we're going to do a lot of active shooter training over the summer like we always do, and incorporate our SROs into that. Hopefully utilize all the campuses. We've utilized all of them except the elementary school. We're going to focus on the elementary school with that training this summer. And as you know, we train all of our staff, not just the SROs, because we want our people to be prepared in case there's a threat to the kids. But in addition to that, we're going to have some programs over the summer for kids as well, because summer's a time, some of them don't have a whole heck of a lot to do, and we want to stay involved, and we want to keep our officers, our SROs, and our case program in front of these kids and maintain relationships with them over the summer. That's all I got.
Seth?
I guess the Strawberry Festival coming up April the 20th from 12 to 6 at Alva Park.
Next round.
Kevin? Bill?
Just 2 items, I think 2, on the agenda.
Okay. Bridget?
No, sir.
Ms. Kay?
Thank you. My first question is for our attorney, Ms. Grace Graham. Do you have an update on the enclave litigation?
I do not, but I can check on that and get back with you, ma'am.
That would be great. Could you get that information for the next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
I'll
you.
get that.
Okay. Also, Bill Hilliard, Public Works, what's the delay on the stop sign at the intersection of Garden and Amber? I contacted you a while back.
I don't know if you had to order it or what, but I'll check with the developer. That'll be something that he's got to put in, but I'll check with him, see if you may have to order one, since it's a decorative post, but I'll check with him and see.
Well, as I reported to you, our residents they have concerns about them coming out of there and not stopping. So is there something temporary that the city can put up to avoid an accident?
Yeah, we can. We can do that. We hate to spend city money on something the developer should have done up front. I don't know why he wasn't asked to put it in up front, but yeah, we can put in a temporary sign, one of ours. I'll check with him tomorrow and see what his timeline is on it. If it's going to be another, more than a week, we'll put a temporary one in.
Okay. Question back to our attorney, because if there's an accident there, is the city law
Well,
at an intersection that, has been reported or what have you? That
there's
there's
a notice that there's been an accident at an intersection.
I said, is there possible litigation to the city if there is?
Well, I mean, as we say in the legal business, anybody can sue over anything, and they'd likely just bring in everybody who may be responsible if there were an accident, but that doesn't mean that the city would be liable, of course, but you could always be sued over something. So, I mean, I'd look into maybe doing a temporary thing, and if you want me to work with you and the developer to try to get them to do what they were supposed to do, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, we do that.
Okay. Also, do we have an update on those hotels that we were talking about last year that we're supposed to be building? The Home 2 Suite and the Comfort Inn, do we have any updated information?
I have not had any conversation with them since, I think they've turned in, did they turn in civil plans?
They've turned in civil plans, and I know Home 2 Suites, we've looked at those, the plans. Seemed like the other one, what's the name of the other?
Comfort Inn is the one that besides the Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything on it.
Home 2 Suites, I want to say yes. It seemed like I saw something on Comfort Inn, but I don't think they had bought permits yet. And as he hadn't seen anything or not, I don't know about Danny, the fire marshal. I don't know if he's approved them and looked at them. But they- Comfort or Home 2 Suites.
Home 2 Suites is making the round right now. You may have already looked at it. They're making the rounds.
Yeah. So Home 2 Suites, I think.
Something's going on with Home 2 Suites, which is behind the Hampton. The other one I haven't heard.
We approved the utility part of the other one, we approved a while back. I mean, it was sent out on the utility side a while back, but on the building side.
Yeah, when they, usually starts with civil, and then the other ones that kind of comes through, they start getting them out there to everybody, for everybody to look at. And once they sort of get approved, I guess they bid for a contract, and then next thing you know, they bought a permit. But I don't think permits have been bought on either one of them yet. But they are working on it.
The Home 2,
Home 2
or the Comfort Inn one was the original, the first one I think we kicked around. I'll touch base. 58 Inc. was working on that. That was the lady that left 58 Inc. that was working with that developer originally. So I need to circle back with them. I don't have a contact on the developer.
Okay. That is all I have, thank you.
I may be jumping the gun here, but I want to talk about, and I want us to all talk about this TAP grant that we have coming up. I'm all for the free money, but I have some questions about this, and is this the time that I can ask these questions and somebody can help me with this?
I don't think it's a bad time, so.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it out there.
Well,
When I look over the project, it says the utilities, about the responsibility of the utilities. When I went and drove around and looked at that, I see that the power poles are on 31, and then we have a water meter. And it's the city's responsibility, based on this project, to do something with the utilities. But is there a conceptual drawing of the utility, not of the utilities, but of the design of what we want to do for the landscaping?
Yeah, there is. There was, a conceptual sent with the grant. Most of your poles, I don't think there'll be any overhead utility relocation, and underground, there might be a water meter or two.
But there's a fire hydrant on the corner.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of water work there. I don't think there's, I'm trying to remember, I think sewer does going across, but we shouldn't be that deep.
Okay, with that being said, there's also some easements on here. So on the easements, are the easements belonging to the highway department? Do they belong to the city? Or easements? I guess let me back up and start over with this. I understood that the sidewalks were going to be expanded. Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
If we expand those sidewalks, then that goes into the highway, I would assume. Is there any easements or anything that we have to worry about with that? Is the layout of the parking going to change?
Depends.
Okay, because it's parallel parking on 31
Mhm,
and different parking on 25.
mhm. Angle parking on
Angle,
25.
that's
Mhm.
the word I'm looking for, thank you. So how does that play into this $1 million? Because to me, when I look at that, $1 million looks like a lot of money, but if we have to move utilities and that kind of stuff, is that going to be enough to cover that?
No, so if you, in the contract, utility relocation, there'll be no right-of-way acquisition because the right-of-way is there. All the right-of-way belongs to Aldott. So there is no right-of-way, you don't have to acquire any right-of-way.
Okay.
So utility relocates would be, looking at it, probably all it would have is a little bit of water, maybe, depends on what the grades line out to. So you have to, when you apply for a grant, you don't do full engineering and then go apply for the grant. So what you do is you apply for the grant under a conceptual, this is what we would like to do. That's what they're in the middle of, or trying to be in the middle of, is the engineering part of it. So a lot of your questions aren't fully ready to be answered.
Okay. So the other question that I've been thinking about, we already have major traffic issue, and I don't know when this project's going to start. If this is going to start in 6 months or 12 months. Do we shut down any part of these roads to get any of this done?
You will not be allowed to shut down 25.
Okay.
You will not be allowed to shut down 25.
So how would that work if we're out there working on the streets? You work on it?
You're working in the parking area, not in the travel lanes.
Okay.
You will have no parking while they're doing it. Like all of 25, when they start, all of that parking will be gone while they're doing it. But the travel lanes will remain open.
Okay.
Yeah, that, you know, believe it or not, and this is 2022 data, it seems high, but I guess if we stand there, it may be real. There's 10,300 cars a day travel that. So no, you can't shut that down.
Okay, so that's not shut down. So once, the next step of this is the engineering work,
Mhm.
and how long does that usually take?
So you're on there's a timeline on that. So when you, all right, let's back up from the beginning. You apply for the grant, you get the grant, and then you have 2 different meetings with Aldott, and then you have like your second meeting with Aldott is a pre-construction meeting where the dates are set. So your timeline starts on the day the grant's really handed to you, which I think was September 13th. They want you to be at bid in 2 years from that. So they want you at bid, that would be September 13th of 2025, they want you at bid. The idea is to be what they call it's called preliminary, I can't remember, preliminary scope and estimate, I believe, PS&E, I believe that's what it stands for, which is 85% of design within a year. So by September of this year, they want us to be at 85% of design. And then from that, you start you've got to get Aldott approval, federal highway approvals and all that to go from that phase. That gets you a whole year to work through their questions, any changes they may have, any concerns they may have, get you a year to work through all that to get to a final design and then prepare to bid by 2025.
Okay.
So that's how that works.
Well, thank you for helping me understand some of this process.
And the idea of TAP is something, a TAP grant, the idea of it is something, a project that can move fairly quickly. You'll see a lot of sidewalks, streetscaping, things like that. It's not meant for transportation projects. It's not meant for motor vehicle type projects. It's meant for foot traffic, making people safe in foot traffic, ADA compliance, things like that. That's what it's meant for.
I was just concerned when I saw that about the utilities, and I go down Main Street and I see all the power.
It shouldn't, the goal will not be, I mean, there will not be I don't think the goal would be to avoid any relocations of overhead utilities. That'll be the goal of the grant. Now, there again, if other people decide that, hey, we want these utilities to be underground, you can do that, but that's going to come out of the city's pockets, not the tap grant. So you have to understand what is funded by them and what would be funded by us
And that's what
separately.
made me nervous when I saw the city was responsible for the utilities. I was like, this $1 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you start.
No,
looking at utilities,
it's not going to be a lot of money, I mean, to do that. But like I said, if somebody said, hey, let's put all the utilities underground, then that would be something that the city would have to take on to do. Would be separate from the tap.
Right. Thank you for your help.
You
So
will.
Bill, when we do, on 25, are we looking at angle parking or parallel parking?
So, I talked with, right now, it really depends. We don't know yet. I can't give you a straight answer on that. Right now, if I had to tell you, you're going to have more parallel than angled. Just because it's the same, anytime you deal with, so any older city that has went through this, Montevallo, Columbiana, all went through the same thing. To get your sidewalks ADA compliant, right now they're at a 6% slope, the road's at a 6% slope. Sidewalks have to be at a 2% slope. So to make that work, the only way you can really make it work a lot of times is to bring your sidewalks out further to the road, travel way of the road. Not in the travel way, but bring them out further. So when you look at that, and then you've also, the goal is to get some ADA parking. So that's another constraint you have, because anything in ADA has got to be at 2%. So when you're trying to match up all your grades, it's almost impossible to keep angled parking. It's almost impossible to do. I talked to the design engineer that did Montevallo back some years ago, and they had the same issues, same concerns, about losing angled parking, they were losing parking spots, this and that, but there really wasn't a whole lot of options to get it compliant and to try to provide some enhancements to the sidewalks and the area. So I don't know yet. There could be a possibility, I talked to him late this afternoon, there could be a possibility on the east end that we might be able to keep some angled parking, but don't know that yet. Because it could work into an issue where when you start working out your grades, you start getting into an issue where your curb is higher than your sidewalk. So then the question comes in, how do I get my water off my sidewalk? I got to get my water over the curb. That's how I get my drainage. So when you start running all those numbers, it doesn't, angled parking does not work well at all. It is not an easy design. It's not to say that we can't add a few down on the east end. And it all depends on, right now the plan is to put a shorter radius on the 31 and 25 turn. And what that would do is that would pretty well eliminate tractor trailer turns, no right turns on northbound. I don't know that AlDOT will approve that. That'll be something, when I talk to them Thursday, they're going to kind of put that on the district to say, yes, we'll allow that, no, we won't. They'll have to take their traffic numbers and say, how much pressure can they take if we turn that into, vehicle traffic, passenger vehicles only for a right turn. If they say no to that, then that moves your handicap, your ADA compliant parking way down to the middle, and that pretty much knocks out all your angled parking.
So how many ADA parking spaces are required in that area?
2.
Just one on 31 and one on 25?
There's none on 31.
No, at all, just
No.
2 on 25?
That is it. 31, what you're running into issues there is, I think the parking area there is 8 foot wide, which is really tight. I can't remember the exact numbers on the sidewalk, but if you'll notice the sidewalk on 31, you've almost got like a sidewalk on top of a sidewalk, which is a tripping hazard. So we want to eliminate that. So the idea was to at least try to expand the parking, bring the sidewalk in a little and expand, give you 9 foot of parking where it's a little bit more comfortable to get out of your car. Problem is it leaves you about a 12-foot elevation gap from your curb line to where your from your sidewalk elevation to the top of your curb. And you've only got about 5 inches to make that up. So that doesn't transition well. So about the only thing we can do is leave it at 8, bring your sidewalk out a little more, and you'll have 2 foot to make that 8 to 10 inch transition. There'll still be a little bit of a slant there, but it won't be a tripping hazard of a step up. You know, you gotta, so put it in context for you. You look at 25, 25 is a box. You got 31 railroad storefronts. All 4 edges of that box can't move. I can't raise or lower 31, I can't raise or lower the railroad, I can't raise or lower the buildings. So you gotta work within that box.
What about the road? Can the road be low?
Absolutely. 25?
Yeah.
That's not even a question. They laughed at me. And plus you get into it, I don't even, I know that was a thought that was presented to Main Street, but one thing that you'd have to enter to a brand new contract with engineers. That's not under his contract, is to go run in grades down 25. 25 is built for the way it is for a reason. If you'll notice, when you come off 31, you come down, and then you come back up. I get the feeling when you take your lowest point, when he ran those profiles, one point you just got to cut it down a foot. I get the feeling when you start trying to run grades in both directions and tie it in, it's not going to work out to where anything with a trailer at all built across those railroad tracks. So it's just you're working within a box there. You don't have a ton to work with and stay in compliance.
So basically, this resolution tonight is just, we're just voting on it to accept the grant.
Yes,
That's all it is.
That's all it is saying, AlDOT, if, we want the money and we're going to work with you, we're going to follow these guidelines in our process, for the reimbursement side of it. The design is not done. I know there's concerns about losing parking and this and that, and we'll keep as much as we can, but my understanding was, and I think a lot of people that were involved in the grant's understanding is that the city wanted some type of, one, we need some ADA. We don't have it there at all. That needs to be fixed. Our sidewalks need to be fixed, and we need some parking. 2, it was our understanding that the city was interested in some streetscaping. And to do that, you've got to bring your sidewalks out. And bringing your sidewalks out does 2 things. It helps you stay on grade, and it helps you get your drainage right, and it also gives you a lot more room for streetscaping.
Anything else? Kevin? Ernest? We've got just a few minutes left. On the Rising Eagle resolution on here, we've got everything covered. I guess, Reggie, you've done your sign off on the storm shelter.
Yes, sir.
This is just for the council. We talked about it last time. This is just a formal acceptance of the new storm shelter. I guess it's all ready to go. Okay. You have, I see on here, the ABC request that you've got before you. Elaine Byers go for here.
but her husband is.
Okay. Where is this location?
According to the ABC board, my original plan was to simply do it, this is an in-house, home-based business via the internet by way of a wine club, which is completely different than anything anybody's ever tried to do. The original idea was to do it in my home. Everything was approved until about 5 days before the Shelby County Commission was to meet. Since I'm in unincorporated Shelby County, I got a call simply saying that because several years ago, almost 10 years ago, the communities of Camp Ranch and Saginaw wanted to be designated a subdivision. They subsequently got the signatures required, they voted and redeemed that. I'm in the beat that basically says I can no longer operate an in-house business. That started 52 weeks ago. I have been scrambling since then to figure out where I can be able to operate this type of business. I have an office condo in Calera, which I'm leasing to a State Farm agent. I went to the agent. They have a space for lease that I could actually sublease. ABC board out of Homewood does not allow two businesses under one roof. In meeting with them last Wednesday, they said, why don't you rent a storage facility? And I said, I didn't know you could do that. And they said, well, we would approve that because my intention is simply to operate and pick up the wine myself, only sell it by the case, extremely inexpensive by way of the wine club, and simply have it picked up at the original location, which was my home. In this particular case, the ABC office does not allow that, so they suggested a facility such as as I've applied for. I've since found out that you can't issue a license to a storage facility, but I am not operating out of the storage facility. This is simply a home-based operation. I'm simply paying for a storage facility to have an address because the ABC board requires an address in order for them to comply with their regulations. I'll be using International Wines out of Pelham, Crown out of Shelby County Airport, and United Johnson Brothers out of Bessemer. I pick up the wine, only sell it by the case, only to the members. They can only order it via internet. They have to pay it via internet. I've already set up a Venmo account with Central State Bank. And so I'm simply looking for a place that both of you can approve. And so, again, this is the 53rd week I've been trying to put this together. It's extremely competitive if you're a wine person. Just a quick example. The idea didn't come from me. About over a year ago, I had some friends over for dinner. One of the wives really loved the type of wine I was offering. They went to Walmart. It was sold for $59.95. They asked me what the wholesale price was. I said $20. Most of the wine that you buy in the store is 2 to 2.5 to 3 times the cost. The reason I know that is my business partner and I used to own a wine cellar in Vestavia for a number of years. And so I'm very familiar with wine and the cost of wine. So I need an address that ABC would approve. I never thought about it. I put this business under my wife's name, which most of the things I have is under her name. And so I'm just asking for you maybe to think out of the box. I simply pick up the wine. I will go to that location. They will pick up the wine. Nothing will be sold out of that location. It's just a regulation that I'm trying to find a way to be able to do what we really would like to do.
Kevin, do we have an ordinance about a business operating out of a mini storage?
Yes, it's no wholesale or retail is allowed to be run out of mini storage.
I know that has come up before.
You said you gonna sell this out of your home, but
It'll be sold via internet. And so if you're a member of the wine club, you would simply log on and you would simply request a particular wine, only sold by the case. I would simply respond by the wholesale price and tell them what the resale price would be.
Where do you pick it up at?
I would pick it up,
Where would I pick it up at?
you would pick it up at the facility.
At this storage unit,
That's what ABC would require to do, yes.
not out of your home.
No, sir, if that was the case, I wouldn't be here. I would simply be able to do it out of my home.
But then that sounds like it's running a business out of a storage building.
Well, the interesting part, nothing will ever go into the storage unit. Nothing will ever go into the storage unit. That's why I say this is so out of the box in thought process. I have to have an address to appease the regulations of the ABC board. And they're the ones that recommended that I do that.
You know, from time to time, I see us having problems policing some of the ordinances we have. Across the board, we have a lot to police. And I know there's some deficits out there from time to time. I think what you're asking would be just adding complication to what we daily do.
Well,
We have an ordinance that states that that's not allowed, so my opinion is we would have to go change the ordinance.
Well, I pick up the wine only once a week, and they only pick it up once a week. This is not a daily kind of function. And so, I understand. Look,
What we do for you, we'd have to do for anybody else at any other type business. It could be a small engine repair business. It could be a multitude of businesses that would want to do what you're talking about doing.
well, I think
We're
every
operating out of a mini storage.
Yeah, I think any business is unique in itself, and I think that's a lot of what I hear. Well, if we do it for you, good for everybody, but I think you have to address each of these things individually and see how it really applies. I'm just asking for you to give that some thought. I'm not operating out of that location. That's just where the wine will be picked up once a week. And it's only going to be for a window.
But is that not a part of the operation, is the pickup of the purchase?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, please?
Is that not a part of the operation, picking up the goods?
That's part of the process. Yeah, at some
Part of
point.
the operation,
Well, at some point, you have to pick it up. Once you order it, you have to pick it up.
which the mayor is saying we have an ordinance against.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's on the agenda, so we'll hear it.
I'm sorry.
We'll hear it in a minute. It's on the agenda, so you can have a seat if you like.
No, you've already given me the answer. Thank you.
Alan, do you mind waiting? Sure.
Then probably come before you now, and just thank you so much for what you do for us. Please be with us as we move through this meeting, help us to make good decisions for the city. I want to acknowledge the presence of our good friend Bill Davis here. We're glad to see him feeling better, and just continue to work in his body. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
All right, the first item I have on here is the approval of our agenda. And we want to make a motion to approve the agenda as outlined.
I'll make a motion.
I said,
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now need a motion to approve and dispense the minutes from our work session and regular meeting on March 18th.
Make the motion.
Got a motion?
A second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
First item on the agenda that we have before us is the State ABC Board request, trade name Intervestin Wine Club. We heard from the co-applicant, I guess, Mr. Byersdorfer, I think is his name. Any discussion on that? At this time, like I said before, in that discussion, that it's something, if we were to even think about this, we would need to back up and go change the business license ordinance. So, with that being said, does anybody have any comments or questions or?
I have one question I'd like to ask. If someone came to the business office to get before they do an application or pay a fee to do an application, if there's something that's against our orders, is that given to them
Yeah, they would be
before they
allowed.
spend money?
Yeah, they would be allowed.
They will be given it.
No, they would not be allowed. If it was not allowed in that zoning, they wouldn't be allowed to.
They go to the ABC board
Yeah.
first, and then
Yeah, as far as that goes, yeah.
he was told that it wasn't allowed.
Okay, okay.
He wants us to think outside the box.
Yeah, and to be clear on that ordinance, it says retail sales, operations, or activities. So I think that would fall under, you don't have to necessarily be selling it there. Even the activity is the operation too.
The storing of it or anything
Drop it off
pertaining
there.
to the business, the drop, receiving, storing, distribution, any of that
Yep.
would be a part of that business activity. And that's what we explained. And
Yes, it does seem we have to strike that out early.
anybody want to make a motion to deny that?
I'll make a motion to deny. I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Kelly has brought forth the financial audit for this past year. Any discussion on that? Is there any action I need to take on that? A motion to accept the financial audit statement?
I'll move.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Resolution 2024-22. And this is a vacation of a vacant street, R&B properties, and this one I do need unanimous consent on. We can move forward.
I'll make the motion for unanimous consent on 2024-22.
Got a motion?
I second.
And a second for unanimous consent, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I need a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
I second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This one's similar, it's resolution 2024-23. It's Joel Salvador. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. Do I hear a motion for unanimous consent?
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
And a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now need a motion to adopt.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Got a motion?
I second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Somebody's ready?
Could be mine, but it's okay.
Chief. Chief Height has on here some policy changes. We've dealt with these in the recent meetings we've had. It's on our agenda tonight. It's resolution 2024-24, the adoption of these policies. And under this, I do need unanimous consent if we're going to move on it tonight. So,
I move for unanimous consent.
I second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to adopt.
I'll move.
Got a motion
I second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have on here a proclamation, the month of April, to be proclaimed as National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Is that something we want to do? If so, I need a motion to adopt that.
I make the motion to adopt.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 2024-25 is our TAP grant project, authorizing us to accept those funds and enter contracts with ALDOT and the engineers of record for the streetscape on Highway 25 and down around Highway 31 and down CSX Railroad, Main Street projects downtown. Any discussion on that? We talked about that earlier.
I can speak for anybody else but myself, but I hadn't seen the drawings on this, or are there drawings or design?
So you passed a resolution back last year for the concept to apply for the grant.
Okay.
That was where the drawing, the concept of it was. We don't have final drawings yet. No, it'll be another, probably 3 to 4 months before we have final drawings.
Well, have you had meetings on that?
Yes.
With-
Yes, they've had, like I said in the beginning, we've had 2 meetings with ALDOT to go. You have like a pre-award meeting and then a pre-construction meeting.
So your Main Street people were in attendance at that meeting. Were you there, Jackie?
No, ma'am, not with ALDOT.
Oh, okay. You wouldn't be required to attend those meetings?
Well, I've talked to Bill about trying to discuss that, and I've been able to talk with the engineer on record too, but we agreed that we would keep talking about it. I am very interested and concerned about, the final design of that, but I was encouraged from tonight's conversation that, it's not final yet, that there's still more discussion to be had, so.
So explain it again. This is just for us to approve to get the grant?
This is saying if you want the money, you want the free $800,000 or you want to turn it back.
Oh, okay.
You either want it or you don't.
Yeah, we want it, for real. Most definitely. Okay, so then, but when it's time to go into the
Here's what
preliminaries,
I would like to see happen with all projects that move forward is that if there are interested parties that have a wish list, send those to me And then as I meet with ALDOT, outside councils, meet with environmental people, I can relay those wish lists to them instead of consulting engineers, outside councils, outside environmentals being bombarded from people outside the city that they don't know who they are and they really don't know why they're asking questions. Because when this project was established, you have what is called you have an ALDOT representative, and then you have basically our representative is an engineer of record that they want to deal with. So, and there's qualifications to be that person as far as that project manager for the sponsor. So
Okay.
that's what, it would make it easier if you just funnel them, and then I'll make sure as we talk to them, hey, let's see if we can incorporate this or that or whatever as we go through it, instead of there being side conversations that happen in different parcels in a lot of areas, and then we get 3 weeks down the road and they're like, what's going on here?
Okay, question though, Jackie, wouldn't you be interested though, just for informational purposes to be present?
Extremely. I love what Bill is saying, and I would love to be able to tell him before, because I can't possibly know when he's having these meetings until after the fact, and I hear from a third party. That's the reason we have a design team. And, the mayor may be the head of the design team, and Kenny over the communication liaison with downtown, and I think it would be very beneficial for all of us to be at the table when we're making decisions, even before a grant is made, because then I can imagine it's very frustrating for Bill, for me to have an opinion after we've done and paid for certain things. I would love to be involved and included on anything that's, design oriented for downtown.
Right,
Absolutely.
just to be included for informational purposes as well. And also, Councilmember Carl, since you are over, the Main Street, you would be interested also, would you not, in being president of the meeting? Maybe you wouldn't have a voice, but you would be as far as understanding what the concepts are and what the procedures are.
Yeah, I'd like to be a part of it, but, this was all brought up with the grant writer and Pappas, and all of this went through, and we got the grant for that.
Right,
Now,
that's
if we
good.
move forward in the design of it, I'd like to be a part of the meetings, but if we're gonna accept this grant, that's all this is saying, is we're gonna accept this grant or not. I'm for accepting the grant, but I sure would like to have some input on what we're gonna do. Now, talking back and forth with Bill, if we try to change the angle parking, which it might can be done, it might not can be done, but that would add a tremendous amount of cost back to the city to change things. But that would be part of it, but I'm for accepting this grant tonight and then being part of the design committee for this.
Okay, that sounds good, because we would also, once you met with ALDOT and got the particulars, you bring it back for a public hearing, correct? So maybe the business owners would have an input, and most definitely the citizens to see
Bring it
what.
back to the council, if it's not feasible to do, then the council would know at the time whether they want to spend the money or not. All projects can be done, but it's the amount of money you want to spend on it. So, yes, I'm interested in getting this grant and moving forward.
Right, yeah, but Bill, now that wouldn't be an issue for the design team to be present or be informed about those meetings with ALDOT, right?
It depends on the meeting. It depends on the meeting. That's all I'll answer on that. It depends on the meeting
Okay.
and what's being discussed.
What's being discussed?
That's the only way I'm going
in
to,
reference
that's the only way I'm answering it, is depends on the meeting and depends on what's being discussed, because there's conversations that need to happen early on just between engineers, designers, things like that. Let us get a lot of the preliminary things done and what can and what can't and what maybe. And then you can open the door for more conversation. But it's very time disruptive to try to answer 12 different phone calls on hypotheticals while you're just starting to look at elevations, look at grades, how things play out. You know, it's very time disruptive. So it depends on different stages. Yes, we would involve different parties.
The design saying, okay.
Bill hadn't left me out. I've been a part of talking with Bill numerous times about this project. Anytime anything would come up, I would talk with Bill about it and try to lead. And he's done exactly what I asked him to do, to try to talk with ODOT to see if it was a possibility of lowering the road, whatever, and that has been done.
I expressed some interest early on about the flooding from the buildings. You know, I know that was supposed to be addressed. So, you know, I think if we put all of our comments up front and suggested, I don't mind Bill if you're the messenger.
No, I would much rather it be funneled through me and ask those questions of those officials than to get it weeks down the road secondhand. Yes.
We don't want to irritate the powers that be in the state. The state's giving us the money, so.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, could I request a regular meeting with you, Bill, so that I just remain informed, so that if there is anything that I can help you with or offer to you?
Sure, I'm available.
I mean, I'd rather not hear from it after the fact either.
I'm in clear.
Because then I can't help.
It's like I've told you before, I'm in clear every day. You just let me know when you want to meet.
Well, you have told me that you didn't want me to be part of your city meetings. Where,
No, not when we're doing construction scheduling. No, there's no point in that. We've got a plan, that point, at those meetings.
Don't I need to know those things?
No, you don't, because the plan's already made. We're setting a schedule of who's doing what, where. There's no point in that.
Well, I mean, I
It's a
certainly
quick
wouldn't
meeting
change
between
that, but
mine.
I have to explain that to other people. People come to me every day asking me what's happening and what they need to know, even your folks. So, I mean, I just want to be informed.
Yeah, my folks aren't coming to you and asking what they need to know. So,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the resolution number 2024-25 to accept the streetscape.
Yeah, Grant. Got a motion on the table?
I'll second.
A second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Resolution 2024-26 is an agreement for memorandum of agreement between the city of Calera and CSX, the railroad crossing, Alabama State Highway 25.
Excuse me, sir. You just mentioned CSX.
Okay, I'm in a meeting right now, we'll get to you in a minute.
Can you repeat what you just said?
We got a motion on the agenda, or we got a resolution on the agenda, asking this council for a motion.
And I make a motion for resolution number 2024-26.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
And a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Rising Eagle, resolution 2024-27 is our storm shelter donation. Bill, did you put a personal lifetime warranty on that?
Absolutely. If that thing disappears, we all were meant to leave anyway.
We're in trouble if it goes flying off, right?
We were meant to leave.
I appreciate you, and I know you had this
I hadn't done much in a long time, but
initial dialogue, and know that Calvin has played a big part, Kenny's played a part, and good things come when we all work together.
That's right.
That's what it's about. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you
good
all.
to see you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that too.
I would love to make
Make
this
that
motion.
I'll be so glad to second it.
motion in a second for accepting this donation of this property for our storm shelter.
Argos. I said, thank
Argos,
Argos.
thank you, Argos.
They came to the,
I know Ken Mobley's had a lot to do with it, the entire Rising Eagle LLC. Thank you, can't say that enough. Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
So now we can explain it to the citizens, to our citizens, that we officially.
We have added a new storm shelter, it's down in town behind the intermediate school. It's off 16. So our police department will gladly open that and man it when time comes for the storm, when we get that alert. So you're set up to open it like
Well,
we did the rest of them.
we talked about the fire department doing that in case there's a train there, since we'd have to cross the tracks.
You got,
But we'll get it.
our fire chief back there, y'all are working, I know y'all had dialogue on some of that, but you're working, you got one on your side, we got fire department on the other side.
We'll get 'em open.
To the public, we'll do our best to have them open unless the train's blocking us. And those tornadoes do sound like trains, I heard. Hear the whistle blow, brother.
Mayor, I do have one thing.
I've got another agenda on my, another item on the agenda, resolution 2024-28 is surplus of some old office desks and furniture.
I motion to move forward with that.
Got a motion?
I second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
John DeCiccio,
Yes.
you're here to talk to us, you're a guest on our list, on our agenda.
Evening. I'll be very brief. I am a U.S. Coast Guard disabled veteran. My son, U.S. Air Force, returned AONC. Okay, try not to get emotional. Last week, I go see my boy several times a week. And we always hit the trains. This time I sat there 27 minutes. I went around to the south side through 25, couldn't get past. Went around the north side up towards Alabaster, couldn't get past. 15 minutes later, I was right back to square one. And I could not see my boy. Okay. I filed a complaint with CSX, and we know where that's gonna go. Okay? I'm retired military. I understand the chain of command and how things work. And it has to start here with the city of Calera, you. I need you to support me. Okay? CSX has no right to impede first responders. How many people have died waiting to cross railroad tracks because of comics? Pardon me, but bullshit. Okay? You can take your freight out at 2 o'clock in the morning, not 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Makes sense. Like I said, I'm retired military. I understand structure, I understand logistics, I understand how it all works. And there is nothing this council can do except support me, because I am now taking it to the state level. Okay? And I'm asking for the council and the community to back me. You can't do nothing, you're handcuffed, I know that. But when I go up the chain of command, I need to know I have those behind me. Don't ever, ever, ever stop me from seeing my boy. Bad mistake. Thank you. Sorry.
All right.
I have a statement that I prepared that I would like to submit to the council as part of the record, so that when I go to the state level, it's on record, okay? I don't know how to do that or where to do that.
You can email it to me. I called you back this afternoon and left you my email address. If you'll email it to me, I'll attach it to it.
I don't know, but can you call me again and leave it?
I'll call you again, yes, sir.
We'll write it down.
I'll get it.
We'll write it down, and before you leave, you'll have it.
You know, there was a sheriff sitting behind me for like 20 minutes. And I got out of my car and I walked up to him and I'm like, dude, it's like every day. What if somebody is on the other side of those tracks that has a medical emergency? Like I did. I had a stroke last Wednesday. I'm not even supposed to be here tonight. But I wanted to come. You want to put a train before a life? I'm a coaster. I spent my whole life learning how to save lives. Not take them. Save them. And you do this, and now I can't save a life because you're in my effing way. Oh. You ever see a train get derailed? I ain't never said that. Go ahead and stop me from seeing my boy one more time. Go ahead. I challenge CSX. Go ahead and stop me one more time. That's all I got to say. I'm emotional.
That's all I have on my agenda.
Mayor, I had one thing I need to speak about before we close, and it's concerning CSX Railroad, and I'd like to request to the council executive session on it. So,
Would you explain to council member the reasons for executive session?
What is that?
Well, you need legal advice, you need to discuss like the reputation of an employee. I mean, there's certain requirements to have an executive session, so maybe you and I, you can talk with me after and say exactly what the subject is, and we can get whether that can actually be an executive session.
when do you want me to talk with you?
We can do it after this meeting, or we can talk this week, whatever you want. And I would also recommend an executive session to update the council in general, but also Councilor Turner about the litigation she asked about.
I didn't know this would come about up until 15 minutes before the meeting.
Okay.
So I didn't have time to get in touch with the mayor or you or anyone. It hit me all at once with the email. So I just would like to wanted to try to have. an
Yeah,
executive
we
session.
can talk about what your subject matter is and whether it would be applicable for an executive session. Obviously, there's a bias for everything being done publicly.
So you want to talk about the thing?
We can talk about it after the session, and then we can put on an agenda whether it can be an executive session or not.
Excuse me, sir. I have another question. Is CSX required to post their transit schedules over tracks? Do they provide that information to the county and the states, or do they just come and go as they please? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer, our chief of police may know that answer. You can talk-
We're not given any schedule, no, I'm not aware of any schedule at all. And of course, the switch yard, you know, they come back and forth.
So they come and go, is it?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Okay, well, we're gonna put an end to that shit.
So,
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry.
thank you, sir. So Jackie, would you mind speaking with me on this?
This was not an agenda item.
No, but it just came to my attention as it's potential litigation, and I thought that
Wait
that.
a minute now. Potential litigation can be part of an executive session, which needs to be on your agenda, and it needs to be approved by council when we move to executive session, okay? So if
I
there
just need to
is-
make the mayor aware, and I can do it after the meeting if
Okay,
that's,
so
if it's most appropriate. Okay.
Yeah, so I would not recommend doing that in a public meeting because the council and the city are entitled to private legal advice, okay? So I certainly would not do it. My recommendation would be not to do it here and that we get an update on whatever's going on in addition to council will return request.
Fine.
All I have on my agenda.
Make a motion to adjourn?